Hello and welcome back to Chelmsford News Show. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, I'm very excited because we have another great guest on the show today, Chelmsford Select Person and Vice Chairman of the Select Board, Ken Lefebvre. How are you, Ken?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for being here, Ken. I think this is the first time that you've been on my show, right?
On your show, correct.
Great, wonderful. Even though we meet periodically for coffee and things, but it's great to have you on the show, Ken. I'm looking forward to all these things we have to talk about today.
Yeah, you gave me a full agenda, so this is exciting.
It's going to be exciting. And let me, Ken, I thought I'd start with, you're a certified financial planner, right? With your own financial planning business, with clients, with your brother, and another certified financial planner here in Chelmsford, right, Ken?
There are three of us. So my brother and I started working together back when I got out of school, right out of Bentley College in 1992. I started working with my brother. We were out of Waltham, and then we moved to the Crosspoint Towers. We were there until 2010, I think. That's why we're Crosspoint Financial. And then we moved out of there, and now we're at the North Building, right next to the police station.
Yes, nice.
And then we have a junior partner, Tracy, who's also a certified financial planner. She's been doing the different insurances for about 28 years, so she's good with life, long-term care, disability. She's an expert in all that. I think she could probably testify in court if she had to. She's so knowledgeable.
Wow.
And then we have a full staff.
Nice and fantastic. So what floor are you on in the north?
We're on the third floor.
On third floor.
So I tease the chief Spinney in the police department. I kind of oversee the yard for the police station, my office. So I look right down in the yard, so the gas pumps are there, so I know when engine 1 fills up or engine 2 fills up or different DPW trucks. I keep track of them.
Good, good.
How often are we filling those tanks?
Yeah. So you're at the end of the third year of your position as a Chelmsford Select Board member. And I won't ask you if you're going to run again next year because I'll leave that up for you to announce when you're comfortable. But how has it been so far for the first 2.5 years, 2.25?
Well, this is my second term, so technically 5.
Oh my God.
It goes by fast, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. My first year, I was given advice to sit down, shut up, and take notes. Because, I hadn't been in a board of this, the depth of knowledge needed to talk and things like that. So I did just that. I sat back for the first year and just made notes and met people and tried to understand personalities and so forth. And then after that, I sort of came out of my shell a little bit, and I was chair my third and fourth year, and then Virginia's been chair the next 2. But it's been interesting. I'd like to say parts of it have been enjoyable. I think when you find a cause and you can figure out a solution, work with people to get it resolved, and actually fix something, it's incredibly gratifying. Yeah. Very positive. Unfortunately for me, that didn't happen that often. Obviously, we've had a bunch of issues coming to town over the last 5 years, and different characters on the board, different personalities. It's just made it interesting, and we had COVID, obviously, yes. So for 2 years that made it difficult, no in-person meetings, things like that. So it's been stressful and very challenging, but there are many things that you look back on and say that we sort of changed the way it's being done and sort of set a new standard. I brought in traffic listening sessions, which have now turned into other areas where people want listening sessions. And to me, a listening session is you don't show up with answers in a briefcase full of data and things like that. It's a chance for the town to sit quietly and listen to people's concerns, take notes, and then go and see what can be done about it.
Yes.
So I don't want to turn it into a debate and argue with residents over traffic or things like that. I want to know what the problems are. Yes. We set up a Gantt chart, so we knew what all the items were. We had sort of a projection of short, medium, and long-term solutions, and that's what we're working on. Nice. So that's worked out well, and that's flowed into listening sessions like we're going to do one on the Common. Or I should say the center. We're going to have a listening session coming up on the center where people can come in and talk about, well, do we need better audio equipment on the Common? Should we redesign? We've lost a lot of trees on the Common, and there's some sick trees. Should we redesign that? Maybe redesign the walkways while we're doing that? What about walkability around the center? What would people like to see improved? So all of that is kind of, to me, exciting. I think starting at 495 with the bridge and the exit ramp being redone, and the change they put in front of the funeral home there with that nice little memory, I guess it's a memory park that they put in. I think that has started sort of as you drive into the center,
Yes.
like what could be done with redoing the look and the feel.
In fact, you donated a bench there, right? From
did.
your own funding, your
Yep,
own money.
yep.
That was nice. I think
wife
of you
and
every
I.
time I
Yeah.
drive by, Ken.
My wife and I put the bench on the right side in.
Yeah.
And I think, the message we put on there was about being present in the moment. And I think that just speaks to, where we are in life. And sometimes we get caught up in the minutia and the facts. And I think if you step back and take the bigger picture and a deep breath and just appreciate where we're at, then you might maybe not feel the need to tear into somebody because your coffee was the wrong temperature. Or,
Yes.
I think we all need to step back and take a bigger look at the world instead of being so social media driven and selfish and nasty, which
Yes.
is what we're seeing. That's probably the biggest, what I notice is one of the big issues with being on the board is the stuff that goes on in social media. I never looked at Facebook before I was on the board, and now I look at it every
Oh,
morning.
you
and
didn't
just-
see all my posts for 20 years? Well, since 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you don't see my posts a lot, but I post every single day.
Now I see them.
Yeah, good, good.
And I give you the likes.
Oh, good. I hope so. I just sold another painting yesterday, and
Yeah,
I
the
posted
dancer.
the picture, the dancer. She was
See?
so nice. Daniela, thank you. Santos, and she was a Facebook friend of mine for a long time. Always give me a thumbs up or nice comment. What a nice person.
Right.
And then
And it
she
was a
liked
nice
this
painting.
painting for her daughter. And the first time I met her was yesterday when I delivered the painting to her. And she's such a nice. I've met so many nice people through Facebook. But if you handle it correctly, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful resource, especially with the Chelmsford News. I think it's the best way and just about the only good way to get news and information about the town of Chelmsford. There's a few other sites, too, that are local
Right.
that are good. And then I have the Chelmsford Arts Group that I started, so I have a daily meditations page. But
Well, you touched on probably one of the biggest problems that the municipality, all municipalities are facing now is how to communicate with the residents. The local papers, are sort of pulling back. People don't want to get involved. They don't proactively want to reach out and look at the town website and follow the calendar, which is really easy to use. There's a little calendar on the main page. You put your mouse over, it tells you all the meetings that are going on, and there's agendas for all those meetings. So take 10 minutes, and look at it each week. It's very easy to use. But we constantly, and this happened at the listening session, we would ask people, what are your concerns? And the first 20 items were items that we had actually addressed in the last previous 2 or 3 meetings of the select board. And you kind of scratch your head, we went through all these. Why are we going through them again? Well, people just aren't paying attention the way they used to.
Yes. Speaking of listening sessions, Ken, did the select board have a recent listening session with the LGBT people? And that was at McCarthy, and I was wondering how many people went and what was it like?
So that was last Monday night. We probably had maybe 20 people in the audience.
That's too bad, so few at McCarthy Auditorium,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Which holds 600.
Yeah. But, on the flip side, the feedback we got was very positive from that community, that the town seemed to be very supportive.
Yep.
And had their back. And I think the select board feels the same way. So I actually, back a few years ago, wrote the first Pride Proclamation. And we got that done for June 1st. I think it was 3 years ago we did the first one. And we just gave it out again this week. To whom? So we gave it out to the Diversity Equity Committee.
Committee? I see.
And I think they said, we feel very supported and very protected in this community. So that was a lot of the feedback we got was thanking us for what we had done. And then there were some other comments about maybe we could show our support a little bit more by helping, particularly with kids. The younger kids in school, more education, teens in that community have a much higher suicide rate than the average teen out there. And so I think if they knew there was support and resources available, that it could make a difference.
They probably have that in the schools now, don't they? We have counselors in the schools, and
Yeah, I think that, but I think this is maybe has to be. I don't know. We'll let the schools committee decide, but
Yeah,
maybe something
yeah.
a little more tailored just for that.
yes, yeah. Well, yeah, but I've always felt that this town has been great about the LGBT community and minorities, everything. The town seems to be very considerate of all kinds of people. We don't have a lot of crazies like running in the middle of the common and with signs every day. I hate this, or I'm against that, or
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, I'm a little biased in this area of the police department. My son's a patrolman. He's been on for 2 years now, and I wore my police button.
Oh, good.
I find the police department to be very proactive on all of those issues. They go to some of the coffee shops in town, and they'll host a cup with a coffee. What is it? Coffee with a cop. And you can go down and meet the different members of the police department.
When?
And, they've done it a few times now.
Oh, I haven't seen
I
it.
don't know of the next one that's coming up. The last one they did was at Starbucks.
Oh, nice.
And you can go down and you can meet the officers and and they've done open houses and their bike drives and their toy drives and they have their PAL program. So I think they're doing a lot to outreach to the kids to know that they're there for them, they're not the bad guys, and that they're a resource. And we have a school resource officer in the middle schools and the high school.
For the police?
The police.
Resource officer? What does that person do?
They're police officers in plain clothes who are at the schools.
But hopefully with a firearm, just in case?
I think they are, yeah.
Oh, good, good.
I think
Because
they're
you
always
never
armed.
know these days,
Right.
it's crazy.
But they're there more too, so if there's, a fight or something going on between students, they can
and that
work it out.
happens, could happen a lot.
Yeah.
Geez, I read about some of the teachers in Boston getting attacked by students and things. It's terrible what goes on sometimes. I think the teachers and the police officers have a tougher job now in society, a lack of respect for authority.
Right.
In the police, there's a lot of prejudice because of some bad apples, and that reflected upon all
Right.
the officers in some people's minds, whereas
Well,
I don't. I
yeah.
don't think of it that way.
Well, we wouldn't. Well, I don't think anybody really should, because in Massachusetts we have some of the highest accredited police officers in the country,
Yeah.
and in Chelmsford we have some of the highest accredited police officers in the state. So the
Nice.
Chelmsford police go through incredible amounts of training, and even some of the training, these officers, they voluntarily will go out to Michigan or somewhere and take a course on a specific topic just to better themselves as police officers at their own dime, their own expense.
Yes.
So
At their own expense.
yeah, and these a lot of the police officers have college degrees in Chelmsford, which again,
Which is great,
yeah.
yes. And that could help them to promotions too eventually. But we have a great police chief too, Chief Spiney. I call him Spinny. Spiney. And he's a great guy. I've known him for years now. And I always send him photos, like if they're in parades and
Right.
things, 4th of July. We have one Memorial Day coming up. You'll be hopefully marching in
I
that.
will be marching in that.
And you'll
I will tell you, if there was a Minutemen thing going on, I'd be going to do the Minuteman. So I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I do,
I'm in the
yes.
6th Middlesex Regiment, and I'm in the Minutemen. And I'm no longer the new guy, and so I'm working my
Oh,
way up the
good.
ranks. But I enjoy that so much. It is so much fun, and the guys are just the greatest bunch of guys to hang around with.
Nice.
And the ladies, but when an event's over, it's not like everybody goes and gets in the car and leave. We usually, as a group, will go grab breakfast or go grab lunch, and in full, as we call it, a kit. That's the outfit we wear.
Regalia
Yep,
or whatever.
we call it a kit. But we walk in, sit down, and people love when you come into a restaurant and you got 5 guys wearing your Minutemen outfits. But so there is a parade they're doing on Saturday. But I can't make that. And then on Monday they're having a ceremony in Carlisle. But it's
You'll do the
10-minute ceremony. I'll do the parade
Yeah, I
as a
hope
select
so.
board member.
Because I'm going to be videotaping it for Chelmsford News.
Yeah, and it's this year in North Chelmsford. They're going to rededicate the Veterans Park. They reset that memorial. That the stone that was there had started to tilt. So we got some grant money, and we were able to
So
have it
reset
fixed.
it,
Yep.
nice. And then you have usually there's a group of wonderful speakers that day.
Right.
Tom Golden often used to speak. I know you often spoke at an event. Now he's the city manager of Lowell.
Yeah, I don't think he's speaking this year.
Pardon?
I don't think he's speaking this year.
Yeah, so he's probably too busy with all these other things right now. I'm so glad he applied for and got that job, by the way. I encouraged him because he's kind of a friend of mine, and I think he's going to do a great job as a city manager of Lowell. So a lot's going on and has gone on, and we'll talk about other things going on in town. But Chelmsford is, I think, is doing well, especially since we're going through COVID, the pandemic. We're still going on, though we have vaccines now. So I think we're in a much different place than we were 2 years ago before the vaccines.
Right.
And
Even 6 months ago.
Yeah, I was so much more cautious back then because I wasn't vaccinated. Now I'm vaccinated, boosted, and I check the rates of new infections every day for the Middlesex County, so I follow it very closely. So,
Well, I'll tell you, Tom, on that one. So I had COVID in March, and it got me pretty good, and I had been vaccinated. So I had 5 days with the fever and really achy headache, sore throat, and just out. But I think with the advent of the home test, I don't think people are reporting their rates.
You're right.
So, and because they're not getting, you're not getting as sick, so you just, like the flu, you stay home, you isolate, you get yourself better, and then you go back out.
Yes.
So I think there's probably a higher rate, but it's not as bad.
Oh, I agree. It's the rate's probably 2 or 3 times what I see in the New York Times every day, but it's still not bad. Like this morning, it's about 6 new infections, say yesterday, out of 10,000 residents.
Right.
6 out of 10,000. And generally, those who are unvaccinated have a greater probability of getting it. You could still get it as you did when you're vaccinated, but first of all, your symptoms will be milder, but the ones who are most likely to get it now are those who are unvaccinated. And there's still some. Most of the people, though, that are older like me have been vaccinated. We're like at 95% in Middlesex County. So, yeah, I follow it pretty closely. And maybe someday, hopefully, we'll be totally over this thing. Because I still had to wear a mask to go into the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, which is kind of crazy to me, but that's the way they want to do it. Or in my church on Sunday, I had to wear a mask. But that's the rules that some organizations have, so what can you do?
Right.
Just have to abide by them if you want to go. But another interesting thing that's going on in town, Ken, is in the center where we have the Chelmsford gift shop, the bead shop, and other an accountant. I understand there might be some new condos or apartments. It might be all redeveloped. Could you tell us a little about that, Ken?
I can touch on it a little bit. So what the town knows is we obviously in the registry of deeds saw a purchase and sale go through. And that's when the radar first went off, like, what's going on. And so subsequently, pictures have come out of the renderings. And from what it looks like, it would be a transformational project, I think, in the center of town. From what I've seen, the idea would be to, kind of facelift the building that Chelmsford Card and Gifts are in right now, all the way down to the corner that leads up to Gristmill, and give it sort of the look of multiple storefronts, even though it would be one, building. Yes. And with a restaurant on the first floor, keeping the shops. Maybe opening up the water. I don't know, for people who may not know, there's a brook that runs under there, but opening that up with a walkway. Yes. So it becomes more of a, and then with parks kind of in the back in green space, and then with some residents above it. Six units, I think, is what they're looking at above it.
It's going to be great, Ken, I think. It might take, at least 1 year, if not 2 years to be completed.
It would take a year.
By the time you have all the boards to go through and everything.
Right.
But I think that would be fantastic. Not too big, not like a 10-story skyscraper or something. And then we have the restaurant across the street, the Oddfellows building, with a 100-seat restaurant. The owner of Fishbones, I understand, is the one owner of that and working.
Steakhouse.
Going to be a steakhouse. That's going to be great. And then 8 apartments above that, right? Which would be, we need more housing in Chelmsford, it appears to me.
Well, so there's twofold to that. So across the state, across the country, across the state, we've been told we need a lot more housing. There's a huge housing shortfall, and that goes all the way back to the Great Recession in 07, 08, 09. Housing permits fell through the floor. They dipped again in 2012, 13, and we've never really caught up on what those needed units. So we have a housing shortage, which has caused housing values to spike, rents to spike, and so forth. Rents, by the way, are a third of the number that goes into inflation. So with rents spiking, that's one of the drivers in the inflation number.
Yes, wow.
But also, my wife and I have a hobby. We like to go out on the weekend and do day dates where we drive and we go through downtown areas. And we're trying to get through all the towns in Massachusetts, and now we're up into New Hampshire and in southern Maine. But I take a lot of notes as, just as we drive through a downtown, I'll say, oh, well, this has got a lot of people, foot traffic walking around, or it has a lot of cars and there's parking. Like what drives each one? And what I find interesting is in some of these areas that really have an incredible downtown area, whether it's Portsmouth or Kennebunk or I'm trying to think of some other great examples, but there's just so many up and down the seacoast. Rockport. It's the amount of residents that live right in and above all these shops. And I think that's what drives the bread and butter for these businesses. The people come down, they want to get breakfast, they maybe want to get their hair cut, nails done, laundry, pick up their dry cleaning, things like that. And then they go back right upstairs. And I think that's the bread and the butter that keeps the shops open. And then when the tourists come in, that's the profit, right?
Yes.
So I think for Chelmsford, we have to sort of look at the downtown area and say, how do we increase walkability, foot traffic, and residents in the downtown area?
Yes.
Not with huge projects, but
Yeah.
with tastefully done,
Yeah.
nice projects.
Well, if, say, 6 units above where the gift shop is now, say 6 there, 8 across the street at the Oddfellows, that's 8, 6, 14.
And then you got 9 Acton Road. which
Yeah,
looks like
let's
they're
talk about that a minute. That's going to be, what, 18
condos,
are proposed
townhouses.
at the townhouses. And so what do you think about, that's where there's a dance studio there now. It's just beyond the gas station there in the center.
Yeah, I know they've done from what I understand, they've done a great job, the developers, reaching out to the residents surrounding it.
Oh, good.
They took a lot of their feedback and concerns.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, the residents are okay with it. I don't want to go on a limb saying that. To be truthful, I haven't watched every meeting. I just know what I've been told. I don't think any project's ever 100% loved by residents, the butters. But in this case, I think they originally, from where they started to where they're at now, was a lot less units and a different layout and tastefully done. Now that's zoned for commercial and residential, so that could have been, the idea originally was that was supposed to be first floor shops with residents above it.
Yeah.
But I guess the developer doesn't want to go that way.
Yeah. I kind of agree with the developer on this one because I think the shops more belong in the other, where we have the shops in the center now, in the main street, Central Square. I'd rather see, and given we have such a shortage of housing, I do think it's a good idea to have all of that as housing. And townhouses are nice. They'll give each person, a family, an individual unit of their own, and hopefully they'll have a garage and plenty of park. That's the thing, parking is going to be a problem there because if you have tons of visitors during the holidays or something, you can't park on Acton Road. So you'd have to go in the center somewhere and find.
Right.
Thank God we're going to get the parking in back of the Oddfellows building, right? Some parking there.
Right.
The town.
Right.
It's purchasing.
Yeah, we have a purchase and sale
which is
sign on that.
a great idea. Oh, and then what about the Fisk House is going to be redone, right, in the corner?
The Fisk House was bought by a local resident who, my understanding, is going to turn it back into a residence.
Really?
Yeah.
One residence?
I'm not sure if it's one or multifamily. I just know he.
Because that'll be an expensive value when you have a property like that.
Right.
Because if you made it, say, into office buildings, that could be like a $2 million building, because it's a beautiful historic building.
Right.
You know what I mean? Once it's redone, you made, say, 6 offices or 4 offices. I'm sure it could be worth a couple of $1 million, I would think. So to make it one residence, that's something. But we'll see.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. And I've always loved that. That's, of course,
It's a
a
beautiful
very
building.
historic building.
That fence outside is.
Yeah.
I think that's on the National Register.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I've been here 45 years now. I've watched that over the years, the law offices. I was here even when it was a restaurant.
And
like
then
in
the fire, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was going through many changes. So I'm glad they're going to do that. I'm so glad we're finally getting around to the Oddfellows building, which other people have owned it. That's why the town couldn't say, oh, let's do this or that. We didn't own it,
Right.
the town. So
It's actually, so it was owned by a very large real estate investment trust out of California.
Yeah.
But it was Santander, that building, the Fisk House and Oddfellows, and the lease really was, what was interesting was the Santander. They had packaged it with 30 other, something like that, other locations, all for Santander. So if they wanted to try to renegotiate that, they would have had to break the current lease on all these other locations, and they weren't doing that because they
Yeah.
had a really nice deal on it.
Nice.
So now then when the lease came up for renewal and they had to renegotiate, they were able to break that into 3 parcels.
no, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to this. Maybe next year the Oddfellows building and the restaurant will be completed. And I think
be.
that's going to be a wonderful addition to the town. And then across the street where the gift shop is with the new shops and then condos or apartments above. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, if they could find a way to bury the wires. That's my
Yeah,
last.
I was just
pet
talking
peeve.
about that today with Charlie Wojcik and stuff. I would love to see the wires buried. I've been pushing for that for a long time, but it's a very complicated issue and expensive too.
Yes.
But the most controversial development in town right now is River Neck Road, as you know, Ken. The one that, let's see, they're planning to build, I don't know, huge
The Mercury.
250,000 square foot warehouse, complete with surface parking and loading docks. Demolish the properties 191, 195, 199 to 201 River Neck Road, and then to build this 250,000 square foot warehouse. Maybe with an estimated 150 trucks would drive through the area daily.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's what I read.
So my understanding of the River Neck Road project is the developer who came in and made the presentation is looking at some type of business like a Wayfair or Chewy, right? So trucks would come in, 18-wheelers would come in loaded with product.
Yeah.
They would back up to bays, and they'd open the back, and they would pull product off that, and then they would pick from that to fill orders. So if they order from Chewy, you need dog bones, some dog food, and some kitty litter, they would pull off that truck, and they would fill up a package that then would need to go to FedEx to go out for delivery to someone's house.
Yeah.
Those trucks wouldn't be emptied every day. They would be picked from, and then maybe once a week swapped out. So you'd have maybe 75 trucks each week go in and out for product, and then you'd have some being driven over to the UPS. I think that was the catch to the whole thing is the UPS building is right around the corner.
On Brook Hill Road,
Yeah,
that
so
one,
if you need to get all this product to UPS for delivery, it's not a far drive to
Yes.
get it unloaded. That was my understanding. It was not like a Amazon or anything like that. The company that's involved really is targeting, and I don't think they have a tenant. I think they're sort of building to try to entice someone in.
Oh, so it could be an Amazon warehouse, right? I love Amazon, so I have nothing against Amazon.
Yeah, no, I don't think I think it's too small for Amazon.
It's too small, for one of their, what do they call them, warehouses? I forgot that.
They should call it bigger than that. I don't know what the bigger word
Yeah,
is, super
right.
warehouse. But I've driven down, 95 and seen these warehouses that are Amazon warehouses, and they're, as far as the eye can see, is the warehouse. It's absolutely gigantic, but that's not what, from what I understand, is being proposed there.
I see. Do you know the status of that particular, before we move on?
I think that's kind of hung up. I don't know if that's, because they can build a warehouse there. They can build a pretty good sized warehouse there without needing to go in front of the planning board or zoning board of appeals.
Really?
It's only, they're asking for, I think, 3 special permits that have to do with parking and extra that they would need.
I see.
So they could back out and say, no, we're just going to do what we're allowed to do, and then we really couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
They could just come in and say, we're going to knock it down, put up a smaller warehouse.
Yeah.
I think they needed a height and a parking and a truck count exclusion or something, but they could come in with a smaller project.
I see.
And there is another developer I don't know what number it is on 129, but a different developer has come in and wants to knock down the building on 129 and put in a warehouse there. So
What building in 129?
I don't-
One of them?
It's
whatever?
one of the ones on the left-hand side as you're heading
I
towards
see.
Route 3.
And there's going to be a new restaurant on 129 pretty soon, right, or something?
Yes,
Okay.
they're opening a
I don't
Press
know the name.
Cafe.
What?
Press Cafe.
Press Cafe,
There's one
I
in
see.
Burlington. There's one up in New Hampshire, in Nashua. Great, unbelievable food. They're going to do a
Really?
drive-through. It's the first building when you get off the highway, and you're heading towards Chelmsford Center on the right. You can see it. It's all under construction now. They've got the drive-in window done. I think they're projected to open end of November, beginning of December.
November, December.
Huge following. That will be, again, another transformational project on 129, because finally a place to go eat and a really sought-after venue.
Wonderful. Ken, could you believe our time has gone by already? Do you
What are
believe
we
that?
down to?
Pardon?
How much time do we have left?
No time, really. So enough time for you. Thank you very much for being
Yeah,
here.
my pleasure.
Select person or selectman, Ken Lefebvre, Vice Chairman of the Select Board on the Master Plan Implementation Committee and many other committees in town. Thank you very much. Next, let me know if you're going to run or not run.
I will.
And we'll have to have you on for that. Let everyone know we have the Memorial Day Parade coming up at 10 a.m. in North Chelmsford. So get there like 9:45, 10, 20 of 10. And after the parade, there'll be some talks wonderful speeches and blessings and all kinds of things.
And then after
for
that, they go across the street to the old town hall, and there's cake and ice cream.
cake and ice cream at the Chelmsford Community Center or
Right.
something it's called, right? So thank you so much, Ken.
Pleasure's all mine.
Kenneth. Thanks. Bye now.
Yep, take
Thank you for watching. Ciao.